There is a version of you that walks into a room and something shifts. People notice without knowing why. Conversations flow toward you naturally. The person you have been trying to impress leans in a little closer. People remember you long after you have left. And the fascinating thing is, this version of you does not require a physical transformation or a complete personality overhaul or years of therapy before it becomes accessible. It requires 10 small daily habits that operate almost entirely below the level of conscious awareness in the people around you, but produce effects that are immediate, measurable, and deeply rooted in the psychology of human attraction. Not attraction in the narrow romantic sense, but in the broader and more powerful sense of the word. The quality that makes people want to be near you, want to know you, want to trust you, want to choose you. Today we are going through all 10 of them, and by the end of this video you will understand not just what they are, but exactly why they work at a neurological and psychological level, so that you can apply them with precision rather than guessing. Habit number 1 is genuine eye contact, and the word genuine is doing all the work in that sentence. The research on eye contact and attraction is extensive and remarkably consistent. Studies show that sustained eye contact triggers the release of oxytocin in both people engaged in it. Oxytocin is the bonding chemical, the same neurological compound released between mothers and newborns and between people in the early stages of romantic connection. When you make real eye contact with someone, you are literally initiating a chemical bonding process in their brain that they will associate with you even if they have no idea why they suddenly find you so compelling. But the key distinction here is between genuine eye contact and performed eye contact. Genuine eye contact comes from actual interest in the person in front of you. It is warm and present and occasionally broken naturally as real conversation flows. Performed eye contact is fixed and slightly aggressive, and the brain of the person receiving it detects the difference almost immediately. The habit to build is simple. When someone is speaking to you, put everything else down mentally and actually look at them. Not through them, at them, with real curiosity about what they are saying. The oxytocin takes care of the rest. Habit number 2 is using people's names deliberately and warmly in conversation. Dale Carnegie identified this principle nearly a century ago, and modern neuroscience has since confirmed exactly why it works. Brain imaging studies show that hearing your own name activates a unique pattern of neural response that is distinct from hearing any other word. Your name is the most personally significant sound in your entire auditory experience. It is the word most closely associated with your identity, your sense of self, and your presence in the world. When someone uses your name in conversation, it signals at a subconscious level that you are seen as an individual, not just a generic social participant. It creates a micro-moment of personal recognition that registers as warmth and genuine interest even in brief interactions. The habit is straightforward. When you meet someone, use their name within the first exchange to anchor it in your memory. Use it naturally once or twice during the conversation, and use it again when you part. Not excessively. Not in a way that sounds like a sales technique. Just warmly and genuinely as a signal that this specific person registered with you as a real individual worth remembering. Habit number 3 is listening to respond less and listening to understand more. This sounds simple, and it is genuinely rare, which is exactly why it is so powerfully attractive. In most conversations, most people are not truly listening. They are waiting. They are internally preparing their response, their anecdote, their counterpoint, their advice, while the other person is still speaking. And people can feel this, not consciously, but as a subtle sense that they are performing their words rather than genuinely sharing them, because no one is really on the other side receiving. When you shift from listening to respond to listening to understand, the entire quality of your attention changes, and the person speaking feels it almost immediately. They become more open. They go deeper. They share things they did not plan to share because something in the quality of your attention created safety for it. And then they walk away from the conversation feeling unusually good without being able to say exactly why. What they experienced was the rare gift of genuine receptive attention, and they associate that feeling entirely with you. Habit number 4 is smiling with your eyes, not just your mouth. Paul Ekman's research on facial expressions identified what he called the Duchenne smile as the only form of smile that is processed by other people's brains as genuine. The Duchenne smile involves the involuntary contraction of the orbicularis oculi muscle, which is the muscle around your eyes that creates the slight crinkling at the corners when a smile is real. This muscle cannot be contracted voluntarily with the same quality as it contracts when the emotion behind the smile is authentic, which means a smile that does not reach the eyes is neurologically transparent, regardless of how technically perfect it looks. People's brains detect the absence of the Duchenne marker and register the smile as performance, which produces a subtle but real decrease in trust. But when your smile is genuine, when it starts from an actual moment of warmth or amusement and travels all the way to your eyes, it activates the mirror neuron system in observers, and they literally feel a version of whatever positive emotion produced your smile. The habit here is not to practice smiling more. It is to practice finding genuine reasons too. To actually look for what is interesting or warm or funny in every interaction, so that the smile your face produces is the real kind that the human brain cannot fake and cannot resist. Habit number 5 is remembering small details and referencing them later. This habit operates on one of the deepest psychological needs human beings have, which is the need to feel that their existence registers meaningfully with other people. When someone mentions in passing that their dog has been sick and you ask about the dog 2 weeks later, something happens in that person's brain that is disproportionately powerful relative to the size of the gesture. It signals that when they spoke, you were actually present, that what they shared was worth retaining, that they are someone whose details matter to you. In a world of distracted, half-present interactions, this level of attentiveness is so rare that it reads as almost profound care, even when it is rooted in something as simple as a genuine habit of paying attention. You do not need a perfect memory to build this habit. You need genuine curiosity about the people in your life and a simple practice of noting what matters to them when they tell you. The people who do this consistently become the people everyone describes as someone who really makes you feel like you matter. And feeling like you matter to someone is one of the most reliably attractive experiences a person can have. Habit number 6 is regulating your energy before entering social situations rather than bringing unprocessed stress into them. This one is less about what you do during an interaction and more about the state you arrive in. Every person you encounter is running an unconscious social radar that is continuously scanning the emotional climate around them, and they are extraordinarily sensitive to stress, anxiety, and unregulated emotional energy in the people near them because these signals historically meant something in the environment required vigilance. When you arrive at a social situation carrying unprocessed stress from the previous part of your day, you are broadcasting a low-level distress signal that other people's nervous systems pick up and mirror without either of you being aware of it. They feel slightly more on edge around you without knowing why. The habit of taking even 2 to 3 minutes before any significant social interaction to breathe deliberately, settle your nervous system, and consciously release whatever you were carrying before you walked in produces a measurable shift in how people feel in your presence. You become someone whose company is genuinely calming. And calm, in a world of constant stimulation and anxiety, is one of the most attractive qualities a human presence can carry. Habit number 7 is owning your mistakes cleanly and without excessive self-flagellation. This habit works because of a well-documented psychological phenomenon called the pratfall effect, which was identified by researcher Elliot Aronson in the 1960s. Aronson found that competent people become significantly more likable after making and acknowledging a mistake, while incompetent people become less likable after the same mistake. The reason is that perfection is actually alienating at a subconscious level. A person who never visibly errs, never admits fault, and never shows the vulnerability of being wrong reads to other people's brains as either untrustworthy or impossibly distant from the human experience they share. But a person who makes a mistake and owns it directly without dramatic self-punishment signals something that is deeply attractive. They are secure enough not to need the pretense of infallibility. They value honesty over image management. They are not afraid of being seen as human. And that combination of competence plus visible humanity plus emotional security is precisely the recipe that the pratfall effect tells us produces maximum likability. The habit is simple. When you are wrong, say so directly and without performance. Then redirect to what you are going to do differently. That clean accountability is more attractive than 1,000 perfect impressions. Habit number 8 is asking better questions. Most social conversation operates on a surface level, not because people are shallow, but because the questions being exchanged are shallow. How are you? What do you do? How was your weekend? These questions produce scripted answers because they are scripted questions. They signal that you are participating in the social ritual of conversation rather than genuinely curious about the person in front of you. But when someone asks you a question that is genuinely unexpected and genuinely curious, something activates. What is something you changed your mind about recently? What has surprised you most about the path your life has taken? What is something most people misunderstand about what you do? These questions signal that you are actually interested in the real person, not just their social profile. And being genuinely interested in people is one of the most reliably attractive qualities that exists because it is so uncommon, and because the experience of feeling genuinely interesting to someone else is one of the most pleasurable social experiences the human brain can have. The habit is to prepare 1 or 2 genuinely curious questions before any significant social interaction, and to listen to the answers with real attention. Habit number 9 is having something you are genuinely passionate about, and letting it show. Passion is one of the most neurologically contagious states that human beings can express. When someone talks about something they are genuinely lit up by, their vocal tone changes, their eyes animate, their gestures become more expressive, and their entire energy shifts into something that mirror neurons and listeners experience as genuinely exciting to be near. You do not need to share the passion. You do not even need to understand it. The experience of watching someone be fully alive in the subject of their enthusiasm is attractive independent of the content. It signals a person who is engaged with their own existence, who has an interior life worth inhabiting, who brings real energy into interactions rather than waiting to borrow it from the people around them. And this quality of being genuinely interested in something is one of the most sustainable sources of attractiveness that exists because it does not deplete. It actually compounds. The more absorbed you are in meaningful pursuits, the more genuinely interesting you become, and the more naturally your presence draws people toward you without effort or strategy. Habit number 10 is the one that everything else rests on, and without it, none of the other 9 habits produce their full effect. It is the habit of being genuinely comfortable in your own presence, not performing comfort, not performing confidence, actually cultivating the daily practice of being okay with yourself as you currently are while still working toward who you are becoming. This means spending time alone without filling every moment with stimulation. It means sitting with your own thoughts without immediately reaching for distraction. It means knowing your values clearly enough that you do not need external approval to feel oriented. Because here is the deepest truth in the psychology of attraction. People are drawn to those who are at home in themselves in a way that most of the world never quite manages to be. You cannot fake this and you cannot shortcut it, but you can build it through the daily practice of honoring your own values, through keeping promises to yourself, through developing genuine interests and pursuing them without apology. Through all 9 of the habits we have already discussed, which are themselves practices in genuine self-expression rather than social performance. Build the comfort in your own skin, and every other quality on this list becomes not a technique you are applying, but a natural expression of who you actually are. And that authenticity is the most attractive thing any human being can bring into a room.